I believe everyone, without exception, should have a home equity line of credit if you can qualify for it. Doesn't mean that you're using it, but I'm going to show you a couple reasons. Number one, it's going to help you pay down your personal mortgage or your principal mortgage down faster, your primary mortgage. And the other thing, it's a safety valve. It's a credit card, basically, to use in case of emergency. If something devastating happened to you and your family and you couldn't make mortgage payments, guess what? In a few months, you could be, they could be filing for the foreclosure. But if you have a home equity line of credit, it's a way to survive during rough times as well. The other thing is, if you ever did get, you don't want to lose, leave that much equity in the home. If you have a lot of equity in your home, and again, something comes up and you can't, let's say you lose your job, now you're like, now I'm going to go get an equity line of credit. Too late. They're going to ask for your W-2s, and all of a sudden, and your last 2 months' paychecks and pay stubs, now you don't have them. It's Bob Tierney, speaking of Bob Tierney, always says, dig your well before you're thirsty, all right? That's the same thing with a home equity line of credit. You could have a home where, think about it, you could have a home worth, $500,000 and you got $200,000 equity in that home, and all of a sudden disaster strikes. What good is that $200,000 in your home going to do, all right? Because now you can't refinance because you don't have a job anymore, and you don't want to sell it because your family lives there. That's where they grew up. That's where their school district is at. You don't want to move out, but you're not going to have much choices unless you can tap into that equity. Equity line of credit is the best way to do that. Okay. The differences between credit lines and amortized loans. Amortized loans are one-way streets. You pay that money to that loan, it's no coming back, all right? It's one way, all right? That's why planning, discipline, strategies are important. Lines of credits are two-way streets. You can take the money in, you can bring it out. You can take the money in, you can take it out. All right, that's very important. And amortized loans obviously are amortized, and they have an interest payout schedule where the interest will decrease and the principal payment increases. So there's some differences between lines of credit and amortized loans. Let me ask you this question. I'm talking to anybody, you don't need to raise your hand, but if you're carrying a balance on your credit cards and you're trying to get that paid down, what the gurus would tell you if you're watching late night TV, Susie Ortman or Dave Ramsey, and they ask about credit card debt, you know what they usually say? I'll do my Susie Ortman voice. Well, you take that credit card and you cut that out, you throw it away. Put it in your drawer, right? That's if you have no discipline and no knowledge, do that, okay? But if you learn a couple things tonight and you have a little bit of discipline, I'm telling you the best way to pay off that credit card that has a balance is to use it for everything that you can, all right? And I'll explain how the math will work in your favor when doing that, okay? So let's just say this. If you had a high interest bearing checking account, let's say you're trying to pay off debt, it'd be a credit card debt, you've got a high interest, if you had a high interest bearing account, let's say a checking account, would that help you accumulate some money to help pay down that debt? Sure it would, right? Instead of getting 0% in your checking account, if you could make a few extra bucks when the money's in there, then you could use that to pay down some of your debt, credit card debt, right? Okay? Well, think about this. This is a high interest credit card. I use 24% because that math is easy because it's 2% per month and I can usually do that in my head, all right? So if you had a high interest credit card, let's say right now you're carrying a balance on a credit card and it's 24% interest. If you had a checking account and a debit card that had 24% paying you 24% interest, would that help? Would that relieve a little bit? Yeah, sure it would, right? Okay. Guess what? You do. They're one and the same. A penny saved is a penny earned. And I want to show you how to leverage that, the pay down of that credit card. Okay? Here's what, if you had a high interest, think about this for a minute. If you had a high interest an account, let's say it's a savings account or a checking account, if you had something that you were earning 24% interest, what would your strategy be with that account? Well, I'd put money in as soon as possible, as much as I could, right? And I'd leave it there as long as I could, right? Because it's earning interest every day it's in there. The same thing is true on your credit cards that you're paying high interest on, all right? It works the same way in reverse.